Hello everybody, Chris Lucas with 3 Sigma Audio here, and today I'm going to show you guys how to use the new update to Top Shelf Drums that adds compatibility with Perfect Drums. Perfect Drums is a fully featured drum sample library and drum sampler that allows third parties to make their own samples and load them into this. The reason we did this is because a lot of people don't own the full version of Kontakt, and if you don't own the full version of Kontakt, it can be incredibly frustrating using the free version because there's a time limit and it's not that convenient. So the great part about Perfect Drums is that it's got a great fully featured mixer with multi-outs and everything you'd expect, and it is truly free with no time limit. So you can get this and use our drums easily without any extra purchases. So first let's talk about how to load the drums into Perfect Drums Player. So here I've got Perfect Drums Player open, and you'll see I've got a bunch of drums and cymbals loaded in. So I'm going to clear these and we're going to start from scratch. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you're either going to want to load cymbals in first and then drums individually, or a drum kit first and then the cymbals individually. So I'm going to do it as the drums first, and then I'll show you how I would do the cymbals after that. So you're going to go to right here. First of all, we're in the sampler tab. Then we're going to click this little gear icon under Kit Designer, load sampler kit, and then I'm going to go to my kits. Let's load RefKit 1, PDPK, and we're going to see that it's loaded these samples in. Everything works great. So now that we've loaded these in, we're going to want to load the cymbals in. Now the way that the MIDI map is saved, the MIDI notes are saved to individual slots, not necessarily to the type of instrument. So in the manual, we've outlined which slots correspond to which instrument. And to load the cymbals into these slots, you're going to go to the gear again, go to Load Sampler Instrument, you're going to go to Cymbals, Cymbal, whatever you want, and then you're going to pick the cymbal you want, load it in, and that's that. Now, once you actually load everything in and make a full kit you like, you can save a preset like I have in here in Cubase, and you'll be able to recall it quickly later. So I'm going to do that now, so you don't have to watch me load all these in individually. And now we have the full kit with the full cymbals. Now, in general, the kits and cymbals are always saved in this order: kick, snare, 4 toms, hat, ride, and then crash, crash, China, splash, and then cymbal pack 2, crash, crash, China, splash. So if you load these in the correct slots, which again are outlined in the manual that comes with this, all the MIDI will work. So the last thing you're going to want to do to get everything working is load the MIDI map. You're going to want to do this after you're done loading any individual drums or cymbals or kits. And once you do, all the MIDI will work correctly as you expect it to with the MIDI you already have. So we're going to click Global Mappings in the Sampler tab here, little gear icon up here, load sampler map, and then you're going to load the sampler map. In the complete version of Top Shelf Drums, it's in the cymbals folder, but if you have any other thing from us, an individual drum or a kit or whatever, that's going to be included in that zip as well. So we're going to click this, open it up, and then that will load all the correct MIDI notes as long as the individual drums are where we say they should be in the manual, which looks a lot like this. And that's all there is to it for loading MIDI. You're ready to go at this point. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the mixer. So the mixer's got everything you would expect. It's got all the individuals. Now notice there's only 8 here. You go to 9 through 16 over here and you can see the rest of the individual cymbals and whatnot. And it's also got separate kind of bus channels for the overheads, rooms, and reverb channel that are all basically the buses that these individual overhead, room, and reverb kind of fader knobs go to. Now the way that we set these knobs up, because these are not named the same things that they are in the Kontakt version, is that the direct is one of the direct mic here is one of the 2 mixes of the samples for the toms, kicks, and snares. And then the FX is the other. So where in the Kontakt instrument we have the A and B samples, in this they are on the direct and FX channels. Now you can actually use these to blend those 2 together, which is kind of nice. Although the one thing to note when doing that is that you should not do that on the tom samples. The way that Joe and I set up the chains on those, they are not really phase accurate, and if you add them together, they can sound a little weird. But on the kicks and snares, it's super easy to just go in and mix the direct and FX or A and B samples together to get a cool sound. So let me show you that really quick. So as you can see, you can easily blend those things together and get any kind of sound you want. So I'm going to play a little bit of audio here and just mix with this mixer a little bit so you can kind of see what's going on. But in general, it would work as you expect and everything makes sense. There's also multi-outs, so if you have multi-out in your DAW, which most DAWs do, you can enable them just like you would enable it for Kontakt, and then you can select which output you want each individual channel to go to. This also, again, works for the overheads and rooms so that all of the overhead mics on every drum and cymbal combined can be sent to a single track in your DAW, which is, again, super convenient and what you would expect out of a drum sampler. So again, if you want to adjust the individual levels of anything, you've got all the different knobs for each of the individual mics really clearly above their respective channels. And it's just super easy to go in and make your own mixes however you'd like them. Now, another thing that's cool that you can do is if you buy the full version of Perfect Drums that comes with their own library, it's super easy to actually mix our samples and their samples together to get even more sounds. So in this example, I've loaded a few drums into their kit here, which will show up if you have the full version of Perfect Drums. And I took out all the cymbals because I'm going to use the cymbals from ours. And I've just kind of made a little mix of these drums here, and you can hear how they blend together really nicely. And whenever I loaded them in, they ended up being phase accurate. That's not necessarily true for every single drum combination, but in general, they seemed like they were phase accurate. But if they're not, again, there's phase buttons on either channel. So if it sounds like really hollow, it's probably out of phase, and you can easily flip the phase on any one of the channels to make it sound right. So as you can hear, they blend really easily, super nicely, and you can mess with all sorts of combinations to get any conceivable drum sound that you would ever want. And at the end of that, you noticed I was messing with the phase, and when I flipped the phase on our drums, or I could have done it on their drums, it sounded bad and hollow, so as by default, they were in phase. Again, this is not necessarily true with every single individual drum combination, but those buttons are there for if it doesn't work out right. Now, the one other thing that is cool about the full version of Perfect Drums is they have a kit combination area. So you can actually have, you can load a bunch of our drums into the sampler, and then you can load a bunch of drums into here, and then you can go to this and save a combined preset, and that will actually save everything. So every drum in here or cymbal in here, every drum or cymbal in here, the MIDI, the levels, everything. So you can mess with this, get a great sound, save it in this, and boom, you can recall it super easy whenever you want. So that about wraps it up for this quick little guide on how to get our drums working in Perfect Drums. For the most part, I think it's pretty intuitive, super easy to use, sounds great. And again, if you are curious about anything or need to figure out how to do any of this stuff again, all the stuff that I covered in this video is in the manual. It's pretty straightforward. We hope you guys enjoy this, especially those guys who don't have Kontakt. This should make this a lot easier for you. And as always, keep it cool, guys.